Welcome to Ready Layer 1, a crypto podcast that focuses on the Near ecosystem. And in today's episode, we interviewed the team at Mintbase.
I really liked this conversation a lot because they talked so much about how they are not just a marketplace, because they're not. It's really this platform to build on top of. And so to get down into the weeds with them of, the capabilities of Mintbase, where they're trying to go with it, the experimental nature of everything they've been doing for the past few years and want to continue doing, was really exciting to hear. And they were just a really great interview to kind of get down to just the OGs of Near, as well as what's in the future. And with that said, please enjoy this episode with Carolyn and Nate of Mintbase.
Someone who's crypto savvy, or maybe not, just came to Near and they see Mintbase. How would you describe that to them?
It's a good intro to just go, oh, they have a market. Great. Oh, I can click some stuff. Great. Oh, I can deploy my own store. What does that mean? And then that's where the rabbit hole kind of begins. And then if you're a developer, you go, wow, I got to deploy a store with 3 clicks. I think the real mine entry of what Mintbase is once you've deployed your store, then you go into the store settings and you see all of that giant list of all the things you can do. That's kind of the beginning. It's okay, I can add other minters to my store. So what does that mean? Is this a DAO? Is this my own dApp? It's access control on your own store. You can add royalties as the store owner. So when you add your minters, you can get royalties from them. And then if you're a developer, all of a sudden you go, oh, wait, I can actually do all this stuff via code using these stupid, simple tools. And then I'm hoping that's where the light starts going on of okay, let's get away from Mintbase UI. Let's start building our own UIs. And then the whole new civilization gets built, right?
So, all right, there's a lot. I like that. There's a lot to unpack there. So, but I agree with you. I did the exact thing that you just ran through. That I was like, oh, marketplace. Oh, click. Wait, devs. Oh, a smart contract.
Yeah, because as soon as you started talking, I was going to ask the question of it feels like, you want eventually have people to build on top of it, not necessarily be inside of the Mintbase URL, but use that simply as a foundation. Yeah. Do you see yourself as a Shopify kind of setup?
So we're going to be doing the NearCon ticketing. And so what we want to do is we want to display an NFT to buy a thing, right? But we don't want it just to get bought from our system. We want other people to build their own interfaces to buy it in several different ways. So Gorilla Shops is known as the Shopify they've built on top of us. So maybe you buy it from Gorilla Shops. Maybe Mint Ticket is now building on top of us. Maybe you buy it from their fancier UI. Maybe 3XR is a fancy VR gallery, and you walk in there with your little hand gears and you buy a ticket in that room. The world is we aren't the one to decide what the best UI is. We want everyone else to build their own stuff. So we aren't the Shopify, but we're there's the primitive of Shopify, and we can go from there.
So you're just the underlying pipes of everything. That's the goal here.
Imagine people going, oh, I want to build the metaverse, and then they expect them to do all of the metaverse transaction layer. But the reality is I think there's going to be several metaverses. They're all going to say, how do I interact with blockchain? This is really hard. And then they're going to interface with Mintbase. So I think Mintbase is going to be the core of all these metaverses, and they're just going to be kind of that interface that, it's a different window into using our system.
All right, because I saw an artist. I went to an artist on Mintbase, and they had a gallery that was kind of in a metaverse world. So the metaverse world wasn't Mintbase, but everything in there, the NFTs in there, the art in there that I could explore and maybe purchase if I wanted, was Mintbase. But the metaverse was sort of just they kind of went to a metaverse and plugged in Mintbase to it and got all those benefits or all the...
So that was actually built by Microchip. He's a Mintbase employee. 3XR is nothing to do with Mintbase. It's on his own off hours. He's built that on his own. But basically every store that you deploy, you get your own virtual reality room automatically booted up. So different concept than crypto voxels, where on a desktop it makes sense, where you're pressing forward and you're interacting with people. But this is more of this is your room that you get to have. And then he's gotten really weird with all sorts of stuff.
You don't need to do anything. The hurdles are really low, because usually people in crypto voxels or Decentraland, they have to buy land, they have to invest money, buy the tokens, and all those things. But with us, they immediately have their own gallery, and it's just there after minting NFTs.
This is okay. So, Joe, this is why I wanted to talk to you guys. So, right now, I've been trying to find out, where do you sit? Like, okay, so Joe and I are already layer one. We're building out projects. We're trying to get validators. We're doing staking wars. We're all over the place. And I'm like, okay, Mintbase is somewhere. I am aware of that. I know it's got to be somewhere. So the current meta right now, which I'm glad is sort of fading away, is that NFTs, you mint them, you buy them, you flip them on the secondary market, you try to get the price up. And it's like, that's just not what I think.
You try to get the price up, and how are we getting the price up? Well, people are paying people to buy them and then shill them out.
Right.
Yes.
Who's paying them to buy it? It's a very easy. Oh wait, we can't do that. Let's go the variable route. We're like, well, let's do a liquidity mining where we dish out tokens based on transactions back and forth, and then we've got all these. Like, to me, like, it's been so hard getting to where we're at, getting our transaction volume with what's at, doing it like the most honest, like, raw.
Yeah.
We're doing innovation. We're trying to figure this out way, and we're getting there.
Well, and that's where I think the industry is gonna go, right? So you have this like sort of degen flipping game. It's like we just ran through the end of it. We did the game theory together, and it fails. Like, it doesn't work. So now I think collectively the group's gonna be like, okay, what are NFTs? And I think they're much bigger. They can connect with DAOs. I mean, an NFT, as Joe explains to me, it's like a smart contract, but that is so just the beginning. Yeah. You seem like you're the next evolution of what has happened. Like, what's currently happening is so small, and Mintbase is so big. So how can we make that jump?
Yeah, it's our job to articulate that. So right now we've completely failed at that. We've really been engineering heavy. I'm a developer myself. My GitHub has been green since like.
You're still coding every
still
day
coding.
Now.
Like, should not be.
Yeah.
But our failure is the articulation point. And now we're shifting. We're going to build out our dev relations team. We're going to beef up our documentation. We're going to, like, our whole world is now, like, we got our Series A sorted, 7.5 million. Now we need to shift the attention on, look at what we built.
Yeah, but it's also difficult because we are like experimenting a lot, and we are always going into different directions. For example, last year we went to a festival, we did like ticketing there and redeemable beer NFTs, and then we integrated like some collective painting at NearCon, where we did like an auction. So we are like always trying to do different things. But what we really are excited about is utility NFTs. So anything that doesn't have to do, I mean, art is amazing, but anything that goes a step further and where you can actually do something with this technology. For example, I have a burrito NFT, and I go to a restaurant and I redeem that NFT and I actually get the physical burrito. And we did that last year at NearCon.
And it was great, but we had definitely struggled. We're seeing from the minting to physical redeeming, like, that whole spectrum is hard. We can't be everywhere as a small team. So we're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work in processing.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna say something. When you said you were like a failure at figuring, I disagree with that fully, right? Like, this is like, we're like in the frontier of a space that's like developing around us. That's like saying, like, with just like two wheels of a plane, you didn't describe what a plane does yet. You know what I mean? And as you're building this plane, eventually you'll have a plane, and then it's like describable. So
I think what's really interesting that I've seen so far and been being in the space with you guys is that it almost feels like you had the proof of concept before of, like, we're going to do NFTs and we're going to have this kind of marketplace feel to a thing. Okay, we've proved the concept, and now we're going the next level. I was kind of playing around going through some of the different developer pieces the other night, and like, it's really interesting to me because, I am not very well skilled in Web3 and smart contracts yet, but because I came from Web 2, I've been doing that for decades. Like, so now to make that transition and to see, like, oh, I can be up and running with my project so much faster because you've taken that big lift away from me, but I can still build. I'm not constrained to everything that you're doing, is really interesting, I think, as a business proposition long term than just obviously a marketplace. And I assume that's what the goal has always been.
The goal is we built the marketplace so we know that we're building the right thing for the developers. So we've built the auctions and all these different things, knowing that we've built like the raw basics, knowing that other people can go, okay, they can figure that out. So the main theory is you can switch from mainnet to testnet. I think the easiest process would be switch to testnet, create a testnet account. It boots you up with 200 fake Near tokens, deploy a store via the UI. Now you have a contract that you can go into, the Near Explorer or Near blocks and go check out what's happening in there. And we try and expose every transaction hash we can, because almost every movement is a transaction on our system. And to me, it's super important. Everyone talks about, hey, we need to remove the blockchain from the user experience. And to me, I'm the other way around, where it's like we have to educate the user on how important it is that, these transaction hashes exist, and and then people go way to the other way. Where they're like, well, let's go full custodial. Let's hide everything. We can, we'll take care of their keys. And so I went way off left field on that one, but yeah.
Yeah. To me, though, like I think that approach feels right, because what's happening right now is that you do have these, I guess, extremes, right? Like there's nobody who is trying to thread it down the middle, in the sense of where I want to be able to have some control, but at the same time, you can't really give me all of the control because I don't know what I'm doing for the average user. And so the more you can put that out front, it sounds like, in the way that you're trying to approach it through an educational standpoint, is that you're giving the opportunity to understand what Web3 and the blockchain really is, as well as we're going to give you some guardrails, right? Is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah, you don't need to go full Rust, but if you know GraphQL, then you can hop in there, use Apollo, do a linkage thing. I don't know if you went in and actually went into graphical and put in the one of the endpoints and saw all that giant list of that's our entire system is that. So anything that we do on Mintbase is in there. It's can I get all the royalties from this offer that was sent on whatever? Can I burn? Can I deploy a store? What store? What things are on the store? Like all of that is very easily to dive into.
I'm gonna just kind of try to still like wrap my brain around it. Right? Like Joe's much more dev centric, and he gets this kind of stuff. So for someone like me, like I think like for like a marketing approach of this, who is your target right now? Currently, the target user for you?
Target user is definitely like the Mint ticket and the Gorilla shops and those different groups. We've dove into enterprise for a bit, and you'll just end up going down this hardcore rabbit hole of having them build everything custom for them. And it's a large, painful process that a team of, 6 engineers can't really go all in. But we think the new wave of entrepreneurs, the people are, understand Web 2 pretty heavily. Those are the folks that we're more after. So we'll be definitely diving into a lot of the Rust meetup groups, GraphQL meetup groups, the hackathons, the Near hacker houses and all those different groups. The engineer-minded world, I think, is our focus. We also got our $5 million grants that we're going to be deploying soon, and that's going to be, largely focused on the engineers. And so some of the core requirements is that a developer is on the technical team.
So can we go back a little bit? And so, Near is still in its infancy, the whole space obviously is, but Near especially, you guys were there from the beginning. What led you to actually coming on to Near?
Yeah, so I have only made 3 moves in my cryptocurrency career. So since 2014 is when I bought my first Bitcoin, when it was at 800, and then went down to 200. I doubled down, and then when it shot up, I put all my savings into ETH when it was like $1.14, because I was like, I'm tired of like Bitcoins, like Scrappy yelling about scaling, and then can we increase the block size, and it just got nasty. And then Ethereum was this beautiful new world where like it was happy. You had Vitalik running around and dinosaur laser eye pants, and it was a good happy group of people that wanted to change the world. So but as a developer since 2007, I've seen everything. Like I've started everything, starting from ActionScript 2 in Flash, then ActionScript 3, then PHP, then Node, and then getting into Angular, then React, and then seeing that whole process. Like you just know like what's next. Like you have a gut feeling that like community is swarming, the technology is like 10 times better. This is going to go this direction. And if you understand like decentralization, and if it's really important to you, then you start going down different holes. So I think we're on our 3rd wave of evolution of blockchains. We had Bitcoin, Everybody then copied it. Then you have Litecoin and all those bits. Then we have the second evolution, which is Ethereum. Everybody copied it. Now we have Avalanche and XDAI and all these other groups.
Yeah.
This third evolution is definitely the WASM. It's the Polkadots, the Solanas, and the Nears.
But coming back to your question, so how we actually like found Near was, I think in 2019 the Ethereum gas fees were so high, and what we wanted to do is like, for example, ticketing for NFT New York City, what we actually did, but it was really painful because it was just so expensive. And we're like, oh my God, we cannot use the technology because it's just too much. And then you were looking around, right? And you just...
Yeah, we were like minting the tickets with people at DAppCon and NFT NYC we did for them. And as they were like minting and doing this, and they were like telling me, like, are you serious? It's cost this much to mint the tickets? Like, and my brain is just like, oh, don't worry, it's all good. My insides are like, this is not going to work. It's not going to work.
Right.
The idea
and we were in Berlin, we had a mental breakdown. Nate had a mental breakdown. He was like, yeah. Basically we can't use this Mintbase anymore on Ethereum. It's just not usable anymore.
So, yeah, we stopped in 2020 in August. We talked to Sasha. He convinced us to move on over, and then began the brutal rewrite of every line of code. And so we were pretty much heads down during the entire hype cycle. So we were working with the Near standards and pushing them to get stuff going. It was a new chain we didn't understand. So Eugene and Mike Purvis were trying to communicate to us how all that stuff worked. And
no infrastructure was there. So basically everything had to be built from scratch, and it was just Nate and two other developers back then. So they built the indexer, which is like the base.
Yeah, the graph. So on Ethereum, we built our first system on Ethereum in 2018, and then moved on 2020, and I leveraged the graph pretty good, right, on Ethereum. Didn't exist on Near, so I'm like, all right, we're committed now. How do I deal with data availability? And that's when we went down that brutal path of running our own indexer, which is now actually the best thing we've probably got for ourselves.
Is there a way to like maybe take a project and kind of run it through a little bit of the steps with you guys on how we would maybe use Mintbase? Is that something that you guys have like been thinking about? Because I'm still like, my goal is at the end of talking with you guys to be like, okay, Ready Layer 1, here's how we could use Mintbase to help further our business. And I can now start finding sort of the game. We could game theory it, together, sort of like find a logic thread through it. So do you guys have like already as a company, have you guys already created an example to be able to talk people through with how to run through it?
Yeah, my favorite example is actually the festival Wilde Möhre, like a German festival from last year. So for example, you're a festival, and at the moment you only have a few options. If you want to do ticketing, you have Eventbrite, you have Ticketmaster, all those like massive corporations. So you need to have them as like a custodial. So a festival comes to us and says, okay, I want to sell tickets. So they don't need to talk to us. They just deploy their own store, which is their own smart contract, and they create the tickets on that smart contract. And
okay, real quick, I'm going to kind of stop through this as I find a moment that I'm like, okay, let's kind of iron that out. So, okay, the festival, the German festival is like, okay, we launch a store. So they get the 3D store, they've got the marketplace, they've got the virtual cube space and all that. They might not use it, but they have it. So then do they create then an NFT that's a ticket?
So like NearCon is another good example of when we're going to be firing that up. So
let's use NearCon.
Yeah. Have you guys figured out like why tickets would be even interesting in NFTs versus normal land, or should I process that?
Joe actually was talking about this stuff a while ago, the ticketing aspect.
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating. But yeah, please. I mean, I think
just an asset that I own. Like I don't have to get Eventbrite's permission or StubHub's permission to like move it around, send it to a friend. I could build a market overnight that I can trade it. We can fork, maybe Mintbase later, and then build like a niche market. So it's just it's that movable bits. But another example too. So we just had our retreat this week. Where we did an internal hackathon with all the employees, and everyone kind of came up with their own use cases. One of them was Minsta, where it was kind of like Instagram, but minting. So the person who mints the moment, because this thing, as soon as you mint, the transaction happens on Near, and then all the files get uploaded to Arweave, and no one can change anything. So that's what we do. But as soon as you take the photo, it actually transfers it to the previous person who took the picture of the last person. So you're just constantly
neat.
taking a picture, and then everyone gets to earn the
But
next
maybe let's
token.
walk through the ticketing as an example. So why, like for example, it's also important is that as a festival organizer or NearCon, they can split the revenue of the ticket amongst like 25 other people. So for example, you have the vendors, you have,
Okay.
I don't know, maybe a DJ who's performing. So you can put those people in split revenues, and then you have
Okay.
stakeholders in the event, and they are from a marketing perspective pushing your event, right? So it's like a completely new paradigm.
So there might be one day a way to create a event without paying anyone up front. The landlords who own the
Yeah.
space can be 3% stake in the tickets. The food vendors, the speakers, even down to like press people. Like, hey, do you guys want to like put out press? The better press you do, the more funds you'll get, and then off you go.
That's okay. So I'm starting to get this. I'm definitely seeing that the ticketing aspect makes a lot of sense, right? Like, because then you can just see how that can explore, especially even like virtual. Like, say Joe and I, Ready Layer One was going to put on a virtual gaming event. We could use Mintbase to create the ticket to get into the virtual gaming event if we wanted, and then however, if sponsors or however it all flowed together, we could present that out, even if we wanted to make money with it or not. It could be other things too, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it depends on what the virtual event's like hosted on. If you're, what are you guys using your own Zencast? I've never used it. Would the event?
no, Zencaster. We'd do like a Twitch or something. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out like how to like.
Do you guys have any friends at Twitch? Like, hook us up and we'll get them to npm install Mintbase and do hide unlockable files.
Yeah, but I mean that's the kind of stuff that I think makes NFTs really, really interesting, right? Like it's like enough of these trading PFPs and everything.
Yeah, I'm tired of Ponzi's. I'm tired of them.
I feel like I'm the only one. Like I old man get off my lawn, and then
I'm an old man.
people follow me, and then it's very sad. But
I've been ranting on them lately, and I don't think I'm making friends. But yeah, Joe, you were just saying like, because this is where NFTs can go. Like, we're talking real world application with like NearCon, Coachella, big music festivals. You could say, all right, we got your ticket, and then everybody, you can parse out the revenue from that ticket to people without having, it's like decentralized. Like, no one has to like approve it. It's like it happens
right to the bands, everything else. Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about, like, even just on one of our recaps recently on our episode, we talked about the idea that NFTs become like your fan club pass as well.
Yeah.
So I buy a concert ticket, and now that's part of me being is like the fan club, in the sense where, because now they can know that my wallet has bought that ticket, right, and all of that stuff. They want to airdrop something to me, things like that. Now it changes the entire dynamic. Because I think back, like, growing up, in the, 90s, early 2000s of like, you'd sign up for a band's fan club and yeah, like they send you like some merch and things like that. But there was no great way of verifying who you are once you showed up to the event. This, I feel like, adds that, and it's direct. There's no middleman in there.
And this is where I see PFPs actually becoming interesting. And so I have no problem with PFPs who are actually building interesting like games, like they had like cut in the line or come to this party if you're like a specific member to go do this. Like once these sort of use cases of, okay, here's your PFP to become my part of my fan club, and then we have the tooling to actually redeem them or trade them in or do other things. I think we're more focused on like the utility part of how do we make these things useful, and that's where I'm having issues with the PFP lands, because we haven't really bridged that quite yet. But
there's like an asymmetry of value, right? Like the most valuable thing is a user, but users can't get paid for their value, right? Like imagine, like, for a broad example, Web 2, Facebook, if they had an NFT, you could say, okay, you can have all 1,000 track points you have on me, but you give me some of that money back that you're flipping off of me, right? Like that's what Web 2 runs off of ads. In Web 3 with NFTs, people can now get some of that value from whatever they decide. So
yeah, to me, it's that's interesting, but it's going back to the creator bit of where the value and the power comes from. Okay, let's look at like what a creator is. It's not just an artist. It goes deeper.
Yeah.
It could be pizza. I'm a creator. I created a pizza. I own my pizza. And right now in Uber Eats land, like Uber Eats pretty much owns my pizza and maybe like two other apps. But think of this world where I can like put a pizza out there, and then all these different apps can just gang up on my pizza and go, hey, I want to sell your pizza. No, I'm going to sell your pizza. And all these people like sell your pizza in so many different ways, like in virtual reality. Maybe I go into a Berlin shop and I see all the different pizzas like in my spot. Like, to me, and then whoever buys it, they get the market, and then the piece comes to me. So that's where I'm getting more excited about in the I'm the creator bit.
Yeah, and I think the important thing. So conferences, I get it, and those are larger. That takes more people together, right? Is there like an example of like the singular creator? Like YouTube allowed a single person with a camera to get an audience and monetize and do something. Instagram, sort of social. Does Mintbase have sort of like a use case where it's like a singular person who wants to launch a Mintbase store and grow an audience and do the NFTs and kind of maybe get some sort of passive income that way? Is there any sort of like setup that you guys are thinking in that route?
We've got 1,206 stores, I think, deployed today, and we're just snow punching away at trying to figure out how these things can be useful. So, have we found our complete product market fit? No. Have we found someone who's making a ton of money off of this via getting real value? I don't really think so, not yet. But we're basically being swarmed by a bunch of people from the early days who are still with us from the ETH days, all knowing that we're building something big, and we're all experimenting, doing the weirdest things, and trying something else. And that's who our group is. We all know it's going to be big. We just haven't figured out what it is yet. And I'm not going to lie and say, yes, we've solved it. When someone buys someone's sound NFT, I don't mentally understand the process yet. So it's more of the experimenters messing with the stuff.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I haven't found that. I obviously haven't cracked that code either. I'm just like really exploring it, and that's the part of the podcast is like, how do we find that answer?
Well, with experimenting with the technology, so like NearCon doing ticketing on our system, we want to like pull in as many companies as we can to kind of explore what can we do with this. So we did ticketing for DAppCon back in the day, and Coder Dan, who actually before he built Avagachi, which is blown up, he actually came into our hackathon and he built a quick voting app for DAppCon to vote on which speakers should be the speaker, right? You had Vitalik, you had all these people, and if you were a ticket holder, you were only allowed to like vote on which speaker should get it. It was quadratic voting, and then you get a certain amount of votes to do this, that, and the other. So to me, that's like the killer stuff, is like just starting to do like have something that actually has real value at the beginning, which is a ticket to get into NearCon, and then seeing what kind of branches from that asset after that, and that's where we're at.
When I think of the ticketing aspect and the group aspect, I think of it goes everywhere from like conferences to musicians to art galleries to so much stuff. Even like pop-ups, I mean, like I live in New York, and there's always like pop-up galleries and things like that. I could totally see this. And then when you have the near integration with the wallet, have you found that it's pretty smooth when like someone does mint with the ticket and then they have to like, however it goes with the QR code?
We need to import sender. So the big part of Web3 is multiple different wallets. As many wallets as possible we should be integrating. But we're not even using one of the most robust things that Near has, which is the allowance mechanism. So being able to like transfer or burn an NFT without having to go back and forth to do a confirmation, or being able to buy NFTs with certain spends without having to go back and forth. I think that's when it's going to get much more interesting.
I mean, has that been one of the main attractions too of staying on Near and continuing to build, is that as a technology platform, they seem to really be thinking the future, and they're really trying to see how they can actually make real world examples and not just about being another blockchain?
Yeah, I think Near is definitely doing a good job of focusing on the people building on it and trying to figure this thing out in a real way.
When you went for this Series A, what were some of the things that you highlighted in trying to, raise that amount of money? I understand some of this stuff is like we're trying to experiment and trying to learn. Did you provide some concrete cases of where you think this can be in a year?
Yeah, definitely. The Series A was brutal. It was even during the main bull market, it was still brutal because there's just so much hype, so much attention, so much of this, that, and the other. Our main pitch is that we aren't here for now, and we don't think that this is a one winner takes all. So a lot of VCs, they didn't like us because we weren't like the number one this or that or the highest transaction or anything. And my big pitch is and VCs hate this, we're slow and steady wins the race. Like when the internet boomed and did its like crazy thing and crash, I mean, if you survive that crazy bear market during the early days of the internet, like there's a gazillion ways you could build massive businesses. You just have to, focus on the technology, because in the early days, it's really effing complicated, and there's the infrastructure is not there. You have to be highly technical, and you have to survive. And we're in the same spot. Our pitch is basically, we know what we're doing, we can react very quickly and diligently, and we're going to go. And we're already starting to see huge companies starting to buy the companies that might, Known Origin just got gobbled up by eBay, and we've got, it's just a fascinating world. So the big pitch to the VCs is, we know what we're doing, we have the experience, we have the team, we have the technical foundations. Now we have to do hopefully the easier part, which is the articulation of all the complexities that we've done.
You do a lot of the dev aspects, right? Like you're very into that world, coding and all that. And Carolyn, what is your sort of focus? And maybe we could discuss that a little bit as well.
Yeah, so my focus is anything but coding. So really everything like marketing, BD, partnership. Like we are in Portugal, so I'm managing like all of the employees, like the payroll, taxes, legal things. So yeah, and right now we brought on a new COO. I used to be the COO, but since I got a baby in January, I transitioned to chief of staff.
This company would not exist if it weren't for her. And it was basically her and I for 2 full years in Berlin by ourselves. I think it took us, a crazy amount of months to raise our seed.
Like 18 months or something.
It was bananas. But we were, And so basically anything that wasn't coding was her. And if you guys know building a company, it's not all coding. It's all the other crazy things.
And our new COO, by the way, is also in New York. His name is Paul Kuveke. I don't know how to pronounce his surname, but he's amazing. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. And so, Carolyn, in your experience, what have you found to be some of the hardest things about starting a company that is crypto based in an industry that I imagine most people, you're explaining the industry to them while trying to also get funding or whatever? What have you found to be some of the more challenging moments?
Yeah, definitely. When we started in 2018, no one knew what NFTs were, and no one believed us. Like I tried to explain my parents, like, yeah, we're doing this NFT business, and they're like, what? What? And what is this? I don't understand. And it was like, oh my God, like I think they still don't understand. But the articulation gets easier now because more people get into NFTs. Like I can see now the mainstream media, like reporting about NFTs, and we can really see that people want to understand the technology. So the hardest thing was just to be taken seriously at the beginning with the technology and with like building, and that it was like a serious project. And I think, everything around building a business is super hard. Like incorporation in a foreign company, like Nate and I, we're not Portuguese. We live in Portugal. So like the language, the incorporation, and just every aspect. But obviously also, just the conversation with you as well. You're just asking all those questions like, okay, so let's take an example. Like, how could I explain Mintbase? And it's just really difficult because it doesn't exist yet in the Web 2.0 world. Everything's so clear, but in this world, like we don't really know where it's gonna lead to.
What's the explain like I'm 5 version to somebody who's new but might still want to get into the space?
Sure. The current financial world is built on top of garbage and very, very horrible tooling. And this one is a complete rewrite, and any entrepreneur can talk directly to a settlement layer rather than outdated third-party companies.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to a little bit what I was saying earlier. Again, like that's not my skill set yet, right? Like I know some Rust. I am not an expert smart contract writer, right? Like I'm not at that level yet. I wouldn't be comfortable deploying my own. So yes, I could build everything up to a point, and now then to leverage, these open APIs to have the smart contract coming from Mintbase, where I'm not worried about the security, I'm not worried about making mistakes so much. That is a huge benefit because also too, now think about it, it's just me and you, Jared, right? So, and I'm the sole developer here, so it's like I don't have to go hire somebody, right? I don't have to go. It saves money, it saves time, and it gets us, from A to B a lot faster.
And
Yeah, because
to that note, the security level. So a big difference between us and any other, and working on like a shared contract, like I don't know, Rarible or OpenSea or any of those groups, you're just basically minting on one shared contract. That contract is owned by that party. So every one of our stores is their own contract, and they have their own keys associated to them. So right now, we've been very open about it. Mintbase actually owns all of the keys for all of the contracts currently. But eventually, once the NEP 171 is like completely solid and Mintbase is done changing the contracts, and because we're constantly having to find like
Sure.
little updates, because probably once every 2 months you'll see updates of all the contracts. Then eventually we'll move to how Astro just moved, where basically it says, well, you can allow us to upgrade for you, or you can lock your contract and only allow yourself to do the upgrades. To me, this is the big, like, crazy, powerful thing of Near, is the
Yeah.
key access management. So if we decide one day, like, okay, it's time to remove Mintbase's control, which is what we absolutely want to and need to do probably within this year or early next year, then we can do that. And then anybody can go into the shell and go, who has the keys? It's you or completely not us. So, and that's when you're going to start seeing big companies like Oracle using the system, because if they own their own keys, then they know that that contract cannot change unless they are the ones that do it, not us, the third party.
Yeah, no, that's super powerful. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we've talked about with other developers in the past, not even just on the show, just on the side, even of just, when you use some of these other services, being stuck, I don't say stuck in someone else's contract really can stutter growth down the road. When you're ready to do something new with, you're already minted NFTs in that part of that project, but now you can't, that becomes the whole thing. That's what you're seeing people like remint and all the other things. It's like that's not a great way to go. Where it sounds like, again, because of you're really leveraging what Near provides, that won't be such a thing to have to worry about.
Yeah, and that's where like Gorilla Shops, I think they're getting prettier by the day, but it's still kind of rough. But their idea and their concept and their understanding of what we're building is so spot on for what we want, which is okay. This contract is basically a building block, and we know that that building block isn't going to change eventually when we remove our keys. And then they're building stores off of every single a better visual interface on their own off of every one of the stores, because they know that that's a building block that will not change. Completely different than Shopify, because at the end of the day, if Shopify decides to close down all the things, I mean, it's really not
Right.
that out of the realm to do that.
Right.
And when you say stores, what kind of stores are they building? Like any type of store or like
Store is a contract. So right now we have 1,206 deployed. So when you go to Mintbase, you go deploy store, new store, and it goes to the wallet, and then you put in 6.5 Near, and that's you basically reserving stuff into the chain. That deploys your own contract. And your contract, you can think of it as just an API that lives on the blockchain and not on our servers or on your servers. So, and then now that we have an API that lives on the blockchain, everyone can kind of start using that API directly. But it's cumbersome and a pain in the ass. So if you don't want to use that, then you use Mintbase's API to help alleviate the process.
You're coming from, you came from Ethereum first, and obviously building on that. Is there a plan to move to Aurora as well and build on top of that?
Oh, I think this is why most of Near doesn't like me. I've been very open about I just look at, like I said, I've gone through the evolution of programming languages since 2007. So once I've made the jump, I never go back, because you just go, that's inefficient, and your insides are just like, you move forward. You only look forward. Like, I'm a big fan of like, just tear it all down and start, do something new. Going backwards, to me, I look at anything in EVM land just like any developer looks at PHP. It's there, it exists, it's going to be there forever, it's legacy, but can we just move forward? Here's this new powerful tool, and we only have so much mental resources. Can we just focus on this crazy thing? So I was very grumpy about the EVM being on Aurora as a big marketing ploy. But then I've come around to it, realizing like it's pretty effing cool that they're able to take an EVM and compile it to WASM. So even though I don't think we're going to mess around with it too much, it's a fascinating engineering feat that they've been able to do it. And yes, it's a great movement for other EVM folks to push on there. But does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, so then how do you start to convince some of those people, just not necessarily as Mintbase, but just as, someone's part of the community, how do you start to tell those people who are saying, oh, I'm just going to stay with the EVM and come over to Aurora, that it's worth actually moving to full on the near virtual machine?
I think some people are going to be Ether die forever. I think you just start talking to the Rust communities, because people love Rust. It's like the most loved language 5 years in a row. And you say, hey guys, and there's a whole new world and we saw it in Solana. They found those people and they just, it exploded. So I would say, you guys do your EVM thing, and 2 years later, they'll kind of go, well, wait, I guess we should finally start moving over, because or not. Maybe their apps will just run forever down there.
Because I right now we're in a pullback, whatever, another bear market. They come and go, but like a lot of stuff's building, and then you've got this whole game of like we've been meeting with some gaming that's starting to about to release on Near. Are you guys going to have any stuff to work with GameFi? I don't even want to call it GameFi, because just gaming in general.
Yeah, we need to start reaching out more to, I think we've been so like heads down focused, tunnel vision on getting to where we're at now. And now we need to start going out into the Near community and definitely getting all the folks excited about all the stuff like Pixel Pets and Pixel Party and the Pixel Bits. Yeah. It's fun messing around with that stuff. I've never been a heavy gamer myself. I got sucked into Call of Duty once and Halo back in the day, and realized how much time I wasted. And so
same ones. Those two put me down. And then really GoldenEye, if you want to go back to my high school years.
Have you seen Amber? Amber is one that has the actual human, that's moving around, and that's your player is an NFT. So that's an NFT on Mintbase that they actually have as a first-person shooter that you can go run around and actually see giant misfits heads like popping around. So.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Is there anything you guys want to like explain at this point, or just share, or like clarify as a Mintbase, or like?
I think we are here for the experimenters, and we want to find this group of people who want to innovate with us, because we believe that the future of NFTs is not one massive marketplace, but it's going to be the niche marketplace. It's focused on different use cases, and we want to be the ones empowering those new businesses.
Yeah, I just want to show off how many things you can do with a single asset in the weirdest way possible in so many different locations. Like, I just want to enter a room and just see one asset and then like 50 different applications showing that asset in 50 different, completely different ways and different mediums. And you can buy it in all these different mediums and ways. So that's what we're looking for. Build. Don't biddle though. That word drives me nuts, please.
I love that. I'm sure you have you talked to Matt Lockyer?
Yeah, Matt, we've got a loving relationship.
You and him have a similar, like, I feel like you're both like time travelers. You're like living like 6 months to a year in the future.
He's the one that brought me over, actually. He was the one random Ethereum guy who like moved to Near, and then I got kind of interested, and actually I watched Ready Layer 1, the conference, not you guys. Then after watching all of those, then all of the Ethereum people got in a panic. We're all going, oh crap, what do we do? So we went and created a Discord where everyone's basically, okay, do we go to Solana? Do we go to XDAI? Everyone's just kind of like picked a lane. We were the only ones that went Near. They didn't pull too many ETH folks, but Yeah, and I actually just went into that Discord last week, and then I wrote. It's been like a year since anyone wrote in it because everyone went their ways, and I was like, "All right, who's happy with their chains?" Somebody
That's funny.
replied.
I get a lot of conversations, about, starting a business in Web3, and especially with the idea of, one, managing maybe remote, but two, how do you start to actually open a business in Web3, whether it's in a different country or whatever else? I know like Portugal is very crypto nice, and so there's things that are around there. How did you find that process, starting the business and then actually opening up in a country that neither of you are from? Like what advice would you give to someone who's trying to start that
During COVID.
during COVID? So
We're actually a US company, so we went with a US route because Nate had several companies before, so he knew how to incorporate a company. But the Portuguese one is like a subsidiary where most of our employees work out of. But advice I would give is to just
Lisbon Tech Guides. They helped us a ton.
Oh yeah, you're right. Sep and Katana. So basically, when we moved to Lisbon, we had this one group, Lisbon Tech Guide, and they are super great Portuguese entrepreneurs, and they helped us setting everything up and incorporating the company, and just have been with us since the beginning. So finding the right partner. You don't have to do everything by yourself, especially when you're in a foreign country and you don't speak the language. So just finding the right partner who you can trust and having a good partnership where both parties benefit. And
And a personal assistant who speaks the language if you don't.
Oh,
We had
yeah.
Luis Infante, who really helped us navigate all the bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I mean, that must really have been a large challenge. I mean, one, to move, right, period, is always a pain, right? And then to move to a country where you don't speak the language, but you're also trying to start a business. I was going to add if you had somebody who was like kind of your guide through that.
Yeah, and
That's
also
great.
the most complicated thing is accounting, I think, because we have a US company and then we are in Europe, but then apart from those two currencies, we have different cryptocurrencies we're dealing with. So that's really difficult, but it gets easier by the day. So they are like Request Network or Cryptio, or those platforms that can make accounting easier.
But we didn't move with much. We had our little Honda. What was it? Honda.
Yeah, we bought a car for 4,000 euros in Berlin, and it was a Honda i20 from 2014, and we drove from Berlin to Lisbon because it was just our dream, like to live.
Yeah.
Basically, everything we owned fit in that car, and then we had to hire a very small van to do some small bits, but like 5 things.
Yeah, it was a little
awesome.
adventure.
Awesome.
Oh, that's a great story. I love that.
Yeah, me too. That's gonna be the opening of this podcast, just you two telling, because I love that story. But that's cool. So, and the final sort of like takeaway from this is like it's hard to, but you guys are thinking in the future, so this is kind of a good question. Like in 1 year to 3 years, what's sort of your ideal at this moment vision of that? What would you love to see?
The technology being used in normal daily use cases, like everything on the web that we have right now, like what we consume, media, films, tickets, whatever, should all be an NFT, or at least an NFT to access certain websites.
And we are not NFT based. We are mint based. So we might not be mint NFTs forever. There's a nice fungible world, right around the corner. So
yeah, I really appreciate you guys taking the time today. This was an awesome conversation, and hopefully we can catch up in Portugal in September. So
yeah,
absolutely.
We should mint this podcast if it's possible. If it's less than, I think 30 megs is our largest size. So
we'll do something for sure. Definitely. Well, thank you so much. Ready Layer 1 is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. You should not make any decision, financial, investment, trading, or otherwise based on any of the information presented in this podcast without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or financial advisory.